Welcome to another edition of the Food and Farm Show. I'm Gil Dominguez. Today we bring you part two of this very interesting seminar here at the Sierra Foothill and Research Center in Browns Valley. We're talking about the future of farming and ranching in the Sierra Nevadas. Our keynote speaker of the day is Jamie Johansson, who's the second vice president of the California Farm Bureau. So let's get right into the conference.
The other thing, too, is I want to point out is that consumers are so in love with you now. Anyone here do CSAs? Anyone here thinking about doing CSAs? To the point now that really, like no other time, the consumers are so in love with farmers, they're willing to let you tell them what they need to eat. They will sign up for $40 a week or every other week, and you just send them food, and they'll eat it, which is the CSA box principle. If that doesn't blow your mind in terms of development and consumer habits and everything, to me, I'm too cynical, but I'm just like, holy smokes. You get to tell them what you want to eat. That has never, ever been possible before, but you can now. And also the changing appetites of the consumer. They're willing to take risks. They're willing to try new foods. They'll seek your farm out, whether it's a farmer's market or really the rise of ag tourism coming out to your farm. You know, and for the first time, really, and this is the big one for my farm, is that a one-time visitor coming to the tasting room or coming out to your farm or seeing you at a farmer's market can really be a customer for life, and that's thanks to the internet sales. You can follow up and you can keep doing it. That was not feasible even 20 years ago. And really, I want to point out, too, that the other thing, too, that we take for granted as small farmers is the efficiency of the large-scale commodity farms that we see in the valley and these 30, 50,000 acre farms. And I want you to just kind of think about this and keep this in mind. But really, they have created an opportunity for us in the niche market. The low cost of basic food creates greater discretionary income. I'm a luxury item. My olive oil is $15. If you can't afford a loaf of bread or a gallon of orange juice or a gallon of milk, I would hope that I'm the first thing you cut out of your thing. You know, we got to have priorities. But your $6 a pound heirloom tomatoes, I can tell you, are going to be probably the first thing along with olive oil that they cut out. They're going to go back down. They may not give up tomatoes, but they're going to go down. But we have this amazing food production capability. In fact, only 6% of our U.S. discretionary income goes to food that is eaten at home. Another 3% goes because we eat in restaurants so much. So 6% of our discretionary income, U.S. consumers, is spent in a grocery store. That's a significant amount of money left for luxury items like myself. And I'll point out really recently that, like in Great Britain, we had the housing crisis in America, and you saw that ripple effect that happened in the European Union, particularly in Great Britain. And during the downturn, starting in 2008, they saw food prices start to rise by 25%. They started going up to 14, 15% discretionary income, which is Great Depression level in terms of food costs. What was the effect? Organic food sales declined by 20%. I just read yesterday, that they're coming back now, but organic food sales declined by 20%. People will make that discretionary income choice of where they need to put their priorities. Because I'll tell you, subsistent customers do not care about diversity. And subsistent farmers can't afford to take the risk of diverse crops in food production. And the result is that the diversity in the marketplace has never been stronger. In fact, we even now talk about micro-niche products, not just niche farming. But it's really quickly, and I'll try to start wrapping this up, I guess. What time's the next guy coming at? All right. But diversity in the marketplace really has never been stronger. And I'll point out one thing, and that's simply the egg. Think about what you had, what your grandmother had, what your mother had for egg choices 30, 40 years ago. Probably a white jumbo egg, maybe a brown one here and there. What are your egg choices today? Almost endless. Organic, free range, cage-free. Thanks to Prop 2, you're going to have comfort coop eggs, which are already out there. You can get your standard, jumbo white egg, brown, green. What do you want? They're all out there in the marketplace. That diversity is huge. Olive oil. I tell you, the number one question in the 90s I'd get doing a farmer's market up in this area would be, what do I do with olive oil? Simply wasn't out there on that level for the average consumer. And thanks to like Food Network and Rachel Ray, That diversity in the oil market is now huge. In fact, I'll tell you, how many organic farmers here? How many guys in transition to going organic? You guys are yesterday's news. The new cutting edge. I mean, you look at the niche farming that we have now. How do you want to farm? You want to farm sustainably, organic, you want to be conventional. I don't care if you want to utilize GMOs. I mean, it's all out there for you. There's another one I just heard the other day. Veganic. Any idea, Chris, what veganic would be? No animal fertilizers, my friend. But if you want to do that niche, even at the farming level now, we have branched off this success, and that is for one reason, because we live very good lifestyles, and our customers will pay for that, for those lifestyles. Just really to point out, in California agriculture right now, in 1993, or how many people here know how many different kinds of commodities do we grow in California right now? Over 400. In 1993, how many different commodities did we grow in California? 250, 200 different commodities. So in 20 years, we've doubled the diversity in California agriculture. But there are challenges. I will tell you that the challenges are a rising urban customer base. Don't believe that one of the challenges is that the urban consumers have lost touch with their local food systems. That probably happened shortly after the Industrial Revolution. A typical breakfast for a New York family in 1907 was bread made from wheat grown in Minnesota, meat from Texas, seasoned with spices from Africa, South America, and Asia, coffee grown in Java, and sweetened with sugar from Cuba. We've been importing foods, we've been outsourcing our foods for over 100 years. If you think that your biggest thing is that consumers have lost touch with seasonality, seasonality was declared dead in 1901 by a French agronomist who said, seasonality is dead. You know what killed seasonality in 1901? You know what killed seasonality in 1901? The steam engine. For the first time, you could get tomatoes from North Africa, from southern Spain, up to the wealthier countries in Great Britain, out of season. But there are real challenges going forward, and the first one is cost of regulation. Cost for farmers and ranchers to comply with government regulations in California is $2 billion a year, and that estimate's from 2006. It's an expensive place to do business. And of course, any kind of compliance is a regressive financial burden, so the smaller you are, the greater the cost for those regulations are going to be on you as a small farmer. It's not unusual for a small vineyard to have 20 different permits. For me to get an olive oil to a customer's table, I hold about 9 or 10 permits, depending on how you look at it. Food Safety Modernization Act coming up is going to be huge for small farms. Don't believe that that chances are you're not going to escape the $500,000 minimum you have, because if you sell 50% of your food to a third party, you're going to come under that. Organic farms right now, only 7% of organic farms are sold directly to consumers in California. This is going to hit a lot of small farms. Local land use regulations, we see all of that. In fact, the consumers are so into you, they actually want to tell you how to farm. And they want to tell you where you can, what you can't do. I saw recently someone wants to take out an orchard. The community is putting together a petition to save the orchard. He wants to take it out and plant something else. But that community has grown used to those trees, and now farmers can't even make the decisions on their own. So it is a pluses and minuses having the consumer involved in your operation. Land values in these foothills isn't going to change. We compete with major interests for land. Biggest thing, we lost the Williamson Act funding in 2010. That's a huge blow to us, which really evened the playing field in terms of property taxes. There are 3 things you can do with your land. Having served on the City Council of Oroville, I used to tell people there's 3 things we can do with land for economic development. We can build on it, we can mine it, or we can farm it. So in terms of economic development, as a community, let's make those decisions of what we want to do with it. I'll just wrap up with this really quickly, that the biggest challenge we're going to face right now is preserving a viable voice for agriculture in California, a viable voice in Sacramento and in Washington, D.C. As in agriculture, we make up 2% of the U.S. population. Back when the USDA was started, Abraham Lincoln, 90% of Americans lived on a farm. There are only 50 congressional districts in the House of Representatives that are considered rural anymore, 50, and that's out of 435. 9 out of 10 state legislators are from urban populations. We have a very small voice. And I want you to look around the room. You see all the different groups that have their stuff up here displaying what they do, and I would encourage you to look at them all. And we need to have you involved. Farmers make up 15%, rural Americans make up 15% of the population. We control 70% of America's land mass. But yet these decisions are being made for us by people who we will never get to vote for and probably never see. It is imperative that we join and participate in our commodity groups, cattlemen's, your grape groups, olive oil groups, and whatnot. But as a personal plug, we need to unify under a general ag organization that works on the county level to the national level, and that's California Farm Bureau. We have offices in every county except San Francisco, Alpine, and Trinity, but advocating for you on the county level with supervisors making land use decisions all the way up to Washington, D.C. I mean, our single biggest challenge, and I'll leave you with this, our single biggest challenge will really be maintaining the diversity that we enjoy right now in agriculture. A diversity that creates great opportunities for you in the foothill, here in the farming in the foothills. But with that diversity comes a complexity that in the farm and the food chain that no one will truly understand unless you are in agriculture. And if we do not have a unified voice to tell that story, it's going to get a lot more difficult for us up here in the foothills. But I want to thank you for your commitment. Yuba Sutter Farm Bureau, I know Nevada County Farm Bureau here. Chris, you'll be hearing from Chris, a longtime member over there. Join one of those groups today and get involved. There may be some issues you have a hard time with, but I will remind you of this. Someone that you agree with 90% of the time is not an enemy, they're an ally. So get involved in making a difference not only in your community, but in the state and in this country. So thank you for your time. I hope it's returned to you on the farm down the road. If you're ever going over to Oroville, when you go through Bangor, you come out, instead of taking a right on Miners Ranch, take a left. We're about 1 mile down there. We're open on Fridays and Saturdays. And you can find us at most farmers markets up in that area too. So I'll be around for a little bit. Like I said, I got to go to Placer County Farm Bureau and celebrate with them for 100 years of being in business. So if you have any questions afterwards or anything like that, I'd love to talk with you some more. But thank you. Sorry, I went over.
Our keynote speaker today at the Future of Farming and Ranching in the Sierra Foothills is Jamie Johansson, Second Vice President of the California Farm Bureau. And Jamie, thanks so much for making your presentation today here.
Well, it's great. It's great to talk with actually my neighbors just farming over on the other side of the hill here. So exciting, good topic too.
Well, you made a point of this is your local farm community as well, and I think that makes a big difference when they see one of our own come up and certainly rise up to where you have with the Farm Bureau.
It's just being involved in your community and having a passion for what you do, which everyone here shares. A lot of people here are looking for direction where they can share that passion, whether sharing a product or even just sharing the lifestyle and the needs of what we need to be successful as farmers in California. And farming up in the foothills is a little bit unique, as opposed to we often think of farming down on the valley floor with big, wide, expansive farms. But there's a significant amount of agriculture happening in our own communities on 20-acre, 10-acre lots that really are important to telling agriculture's message.
And you kind of brought that out in your presentation about how important those small resources are to the overall picture. And then the other point is that a lot of our farmers that are right now, they're going to be retiring soon.
There's a lot of opportunity right now to get into agriculture if you want to be a first-time farmer or you want to get back into it. But even for existing farms, a lot of ways to sell your product, because what we grow, we eventually have to move to a market. And there's just a lot of opportunities. And you're right, with the retirement, as they mentioned, might be coming on in the future. An opportunity to either expand your farm or even to get into it. So it's always the right time to be interested in where your food comes from, but really a great time in terms if you want to produce that food.
Now, the title of the seminar today is The Future of Farming. Can you encapsulate that, in a nutshell, the future of farming here in the Sierra Foothills?
Well, in the Sierra Foothills, as long as we have a healthy agricultural industry, there's going to be a place for these smaller farms and doing the specialty products. And farming up here in the future and the consumer tastes are changing, where they want more innovative and more unique products, whether it's a farm-raised free-range chicken, or whether it's a specialty regional olive oil or whatever. And those consumers now, as they become more educated in where their food comes from, are starting to demand that. So I think the future is bright for us as long as we can keep the total picture of agriculture. The large farms down the valley, which produce great, efficient food as well for the consumers, but then that'll open up spaces for really the higher end and kind of the specialty markets that are really beginning to develop up in the foothills and kind of the non-traditional places to farm. But certainly, here in Yuba County, Nevada County, and Butte County, and Placer County, generations already farming up here and have been successful.
So the future of farming then is bright on the horizon then for you.
Yeah, it's an exciting time to be in agriculture. I know, right now we're going through a drought that is part of farming, and that's why together we'll figure out solutions for that. But I think as a whole, there's never been a better time to be in farming with the resources that are available to either a new farmer or existing farmers.
And I probably can't let you go unless I ask about the drought. I'm sure yesterday the federal government came down and they said that they're not going to be giving valley farmers any federal water. That probably hasn't had a chance to really be digested by the entire farm community. But from the Farm Bureau's point of view, what does that mean for the average person, for the consumer, for the farmer?
Well, for the consumer, it's going to be extremely difficult. California produces half the fresh fruits and vegetables in the United States. Certainly, without the water, we can't grow what we do for that consumer. So I would anticipate you're going to see prices going up. I think they were talking even cattle prices, beef prices in the next year going up another 15%. So it's going to be difficult for the consumer. But as farmers, we live in a state where droughts come off and on, and we just really haven't. Our position is that as the state of California, we really haven't planned for what we knew was coming. We didn't know when, but we knew that there would be another drought like in 1977. In fact, in a lot of ways, this one's going to be worse. We've never had those 0% allocations like they're announcing today. Moving forward, we have to do a better job of including more storage to help us get through these drought periods. But most importantly, in the short term, is easing of regulations to help the free flow of water from one district to the next, and those districts that have a little bit of surplus water, being able to move those through the canals and the channels in California to get it where it's most dire needed. So the ease of regulations that we've put on ourselves. So in a lot of ways, I look at the situation we're in now as being really being man-made.
Because water is power, and there used to be water wars, and you dam up the water on your property so it wouldn't flow down to the next one. Is there a better plan for the usage of water? In a lot of ways, we only use water once in our homes, for example, whereas some areas, farms that are off the grid and NOAA water, they use water 2 or 3 times in its whole cycle.
Well, yeah, and there's great water maps out there that show that the headwaters of the State Water Project is Lake Oroville, and I farm in the shadow of that. And the water that goes to the rice fields, and then when it leaves that field, it goes back into the system and gets used again, whether it goes back in the Sacramento River or back through a canal system, and it does get used all the way down the channel. Water doesn't disappear from this planet. We have the same amount of water that we've had for eons. It just gets reused and recycled. And there is a way. We've conserved. I think we've dropped our usage of water by 13% in the last 25 years. Yet we've increased our yields by 23%. So we're doing more with less water. Conservation is a key, but it isn't the only one. It's one of the tools to help us be successful in using the resources that California is really blessed with.
And speaking of those resources, anybody that's getting started right now or anybody that's watching that is farming, new or old, what's the resource for the Farm Bureau? How can they get in touch with you? And I know you're a second vice president. You're an advocate for Farm Bureau and everything that they do. But how can the person get involved that maybe hadn't thought about it before and wants to reach out and try and get some more resources for them? Really,
the power of Farm Bureau and the best advantage of California Farm Bureau is that we're a federation, so we're made up of county farm bureaus, and we have a Farm Bureau office in every county in California except for Alpine and Trinity and San Francisco County. But there is a resource for you literally in your backyard. You can go to CFBF cfbf.com, and we'll have a link to your local Butte County Farm Bureau office. And that office is made up of a board of directors that is made up of local farmers. And a great resource to help you get started or help you know what resources are out there for you are fellow farmers who have lived it or are living it. So it's a great resource for people, and I encourage anyone new to farming. The first step to be successful in any business is to hang out with successful business people, and that's what your Farm Bureau is made up of.
All right, well, listen, I know you're going to get going down to celebrate Placer's 100-year anniversary, and what a great agricultural history they have down there. But I want to thank you for spending a few moments here on the Food and Farm Show, and I think you just got introduced to it today. You probably didn't know that it existed before that, and we're in our second season as we try to bring this kind of information, give it another vehicle out there so people can be informed.
No, let's spread the word about your show, and this is the interest that the world really takes in California agriculture, because we are such an important part on a global basis of what we produce here. And you telling the story of your farmers here helps protect this industry for the next generation. So congratulations on your second year, and glad to be educated on your program.
Thanks a lot to Jamie Johansson for spending some time here with us on the Food and Farm Show and giving his overview of the future of farming here in the Sierra Foothills. You're watching the Food and Farm Show. Nevada County Farm Supply has been part of the agricultural scene since 1993. Their staff consists of a certified crop advisor, licensed pest control advisor, and irrigation auditor. In Penn Valley, they have a full-service nursery with over 500 varieties of plants and garden enhancements. In Grass Valley, they have a warehouse full of soil amendments, fertilizers, and nutrients. Nevada County Farm Supply, powerful knowledge and innovative solutions.
Anything Green Hydroponics is your source for hydro systems, grow lights, and soils. Anything Green offers a complete range of organic nutrients as well as fungicides, miticides, and predatory bugs. Anything Green Hydroponics has just received this year's soil. Get your totes, pallets, or individual bags. Stay tuned for future workshops. It's all at Anything Green Hydroponics.
One of the participants here at the Future of Farming and Ranching in the Sierra Foothills Conference is our very own ag advisor, Roger Ingram. Roger, welcome to the Food and Farm Show.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate having you on, being on here again, Gil. That's great.
Well, this is an important conference. I saw this being publicized, and I thought that we should come out here. And one of the things that strikes me is there's such a lot of great information is being handed out.
They sure are, and I think what has made this information really come alive is that we're hearing a lot of perspectives from producers who've been actually out there trying to make a go of getting their farm started and moving forward and sort of the maturing aspect of their farm. And so they're able to give some great background perspectives that are very useful to the people attending today.
Now, a couple of people we saw last season on our show, like Paul Glowowski from Dinner Bell Farms. What a great passion this man has for what he's doing.
Yeah, Paul did great. Really spoke from the heart of, what he's experienced and what's been kind of the highs and the lows. And I think just did a great job presenting that. And then I think because he's a new dad, too, that's a pretty exciting thing for both him and Molly. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It is, and that certainly adds different responsibilities and goals. And one of the things that he talked about is how he's diversified from his original plan of what he thought it was going to be to the realities of the marketplace. And I know that's something that you preach often in your talks.
Yeah, and being flexible and changing to different marketing conditions and production conditions and those types of things is so critical. For example, the drought this year is going to have, big impacts on how people are operating. Maybe we'll get lucky with a lot of rain and maybe it'll be more of a minimal impact, but you certainly need a lot of flexibility. I think that he made a great quote there, Paul did, when he said that plans are kind of essentially useless, but the planning is indispensable. So it's the thought and thinking through what you're going to be trying to do and just recognizing you're projecting forward as best you can, but there'll be changing conditions. But if you've thought through things and you have to make a sort of a middle of the road adjustment, those types of things, because you've thought it through, it makes it a lot easier for you to choose some effective responses to whatever you're dealing with.
One interesting part of the conference here is was the invitation of our keynote speaker, Jamie Johansson, the second vice president of the California Farm Bureau, and he's one of our local boys as well.
That's right. I think Jamie brings a unique perspective, being part of Farm Bureau. He's just over here in the Yuba Foothills and has his own olive operation that has to do a lot of niche marketing kind of things. So I think he gives that real good connecting point with a lot of the small farmers that we have in the area.
And of course, you mentioned the drought, and I can't let you go without getting your perspective of what this is going to mean. As we stated earlier, the federal government has said that they're not going to have any water allocation for the farmers in the Sacramento Valley. That came out yesterday. What's that impact going to have, and how are you going to help mitigate our local farmers with that kind of information?
Well, we're lucky that with the local irrigation district that we have, there still will be deliveries of water. It's going to be a little up in the air as far as how much of that total delivery can happen for this year. I'm sure there will be a reduction in what's going to happen. And so our office and Natural Resources Conservation Service, RCD, everybody will be working together and even just getting groups of farmers together and ranchers to better understand the impacts of the drought, what are potential responses to deal with the drought, what programs are out there to support the drought. I think things like, further inland where all of a sudden you're facing maybe zero delivery of water. I mean, I think it's very important for people to understand that what that forces farmers or ranchers to do to generate revenue is they've got to pump from their own property to be able to have some water to be able to irrigate, but it also impacts the amount of total food production that we'll have.
Once again, we're out of time here. Thanks a lot for joining us. We'll see you next week on the Food and Farm Show. Nevada County Farm Supply has been part of the agricultural scene since 1993. Their staff consists of a certified crop advisor, licensed pest control advisor, and irrigation auditor. In Penn Valley, they have a full-service nursery with over 500 varieties of plants and garden enhancements. In Grass Valley, they have a warehouse full of soil amendments, fertilizers, and nutrients. Nevada County Farm Supply, powerful knowledge and innovative solutions.
Anything Green Hydroponics is your source for hydro systems, grow lights, and soils. Anything Green offers a complete range of organic nutrients as well as fungicides, miticides, and predatory bugs. Anything Green Hydroponics has just received this year's soil. Get your totes, pallets, or individual bags. Stay tuned for future workshops. It's all at Anything Green Hydroponics.